and that facing of the fear, right? That's where the growth comes from. It doesn't come from
Yes.
winning, it comes from facing the fear, and many times losing. But that's where that's where you learn. So know that, going in, face that fear. You'll build courage. You'll build some self-confidence. But you'll get better at life in general by
Yes.
facing the fears and taking some action for sure.
Fear stops us from achieving our true greatness. Are you a professional woman who is feeling stuck, unmotivated, or burned out? Are you worried about your wellness? Are you letting fear stop you from crushing your goals? If you answered yes to any or all of these, then this is the podcast for you. Dr. Charmaine Gregory, night shift emergency physician, burnout thriver, and wellness champion, along with everyday heroes just like you, will explore how to face fear in our lives and emerge victoriously.
Hey, thanks for checking out this episode. Be sure to click the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you get notified when the next video comes out. It only takes 2 seconds to make 2 clicks. So let's do it. Let's get back to the video. Hello, 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 Fearless Freedom Tribe. It's Dr. G, and we are back for another exciting episode of Fearless Freedom with Dr. G. And today we have Blaine Oelkers, and he has dubbed himself the Chief Results Officer. So he's going to tell us all about that, and he's going to tell us all about himself. So take it away, Blaine. You have the floor.
Yes. Well, listen, let me first say honored to be here. Thankful for you, and thankful I listened to some of your shows, and you're helping a lot of people. You have a big results ripple, is what I call it. And I think that the way you're putting it up online, that you are actually touching lives not yet born. There's somebody that's not even born yet that is going to be fearful 20 years from now, 30 years from now, and they'll be able to find your podcast and find some answers. So honored to be here today. And so for me, I am currently America's only Chief Results Officer, and I kind of fell into that role. Really, I had 2 moments of dawning comprehension where kind of my life switched, and one was in college. I was fortunate enough to read this book called Think and Grow Rich. Have you heard of that?
Oh,
book
yes,
before?
absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely.
so I read that book in college, and I realized at that time that you could turn your thoughts into reality. And later I made a phrase called Waiteva. What you think about, you bring about. So it's kind of like the law of attraction with action. But that made a big change in my life, realizing that I had some control. And actually, that was one of the moments where I had less fear in life. And one of my favorite mentors is this guy, Jim Rohn. I don't know if you ever heard of
Oh,
Jim
yes,
Rohn.
of course.
Okay, we're cut from the same mold
These
here.
are all the greats, man.
So I love Jim Rohn. I got to host him at an event once and share the stage with him, and he said, it's not what happens to you, that determines how your life turns out. It's what you do about what happens. And so that helped me to kind of decrease the fear of unknown circumstances, of what's going to happen. Anyway, so that kind of me started on this journey of self-development. But then when my son was born, he was about a year old. And at that time, I had a job in technical sales with a company called Rational Software Corporation. And I went away on a business trip, 4 or 5 days. And I came back, and my wife, Beth, my son, Bo, was kind of giving me the cold shoulder. And I'm like, Beth, what's going on here with Bo? And she's like, well, you were gone so long, he forgot who you were. And I was like, what?
Oh,
I mean, that
no.
night, that night it hit me hard, like emotionally. And I realized when I was a kid, I would come home to an empty house a lot of days. And so anyway, that night it was a moment of dawning comprehension. And I made this decision: I'm going to work from home no matter what. Now, it took me a year. But a year later, and I started 2 different companies, and a year later, I left kind of the regular job scene. And now for the last 27 years, kids are gone now, but for the last 27 years, I've been this kind of work from home dad. So I didn't miss anything for both of our kids. And it was,
awesome.
but what it did is it afforded me the time to do a lot of personal development. So I started companies that had no daily operations really on my part. And so that led me to start helping people. And I felt God kind of pull me in the direction of, look, you're here to help people take control of their lives by taking control of themselves. So I started doing that primarily for mastermind groups of small business owners. And so they started calling me the chief results officer. So I helped them kind of get results on a weekly basis. And I thought, wow, that's a pretty cool title. So I went to the patent and trademark office in the
Love
United
it.
States, and I submitted for the R, like get the registered
I
trademark.
see
R
it.
with the
I
circle.
love that.
That's the powerful one. So trademark's easy. You can just TM anything, but the R with the circle
Oh yeah, that's
is
big
different.
things.
So
Yes.
that's how I became who I am. And
That's awesome.
and I do help people get results. And we can talk about, I talk a lot about fear, and I heard you talk about that, and head trash. I talk about hacking your head trash. I talk a lot about habits and this concept of Waiteba and ways to compress time. But anyway, I'm happy to talk about whatever you'd like, whatever are going to serve our fearless listeners.
So that is amazing, because there are certain things in there that I was like, oh yeah, that's a good thing there, because the thing is that you had that pivotal moment, right? It was like that gut check that happened when your baby boy did not recognize you, which is like,
Right.
That's real, that's like a real thing. And it's like, wow, okay, if this is happening right now with a short period of time, like what would happen if I miss all the things, And so
Right.
that's an incredible why. That is an incredible why for you that like clearly drove you to like get to the place where you wanted to be, where you'd be there for your children and have that freedom of time, which a lot of people are searching for, right? Because it's such a valuable thing, because that's the one commodity we have no control over. The amount we have, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And, they'll say a friend of mine wrote a book called 18 Summers. I mean, that's all you really have with your kids, as the family unit.
Oh, yeah,
so you kind of cherish them more. But the other thing that happened for me there in that moment, and what I try to do when I can, is turning fear into fuel, right? So and for me, there's two kinds of fear. There's like the fear, the physical fear. Like if I step into traffic and there's a truck coming, I want to be afraid.
That's
and
the
I
real
want to jump
one.
out of the way.
Yeah, let's
That's
make sure we keep
hardwired.
that one. Yeah, let's keep
Yeah,
that
we
one.
keep that one. That's hardwired. But 99% of the fears we experience are more thought-based, or and they're your thoughts. And that's where, when I get fearful, I try to make a decision, and then I try to turn the fear into fuel somehow. And that's what, that did it for me. It was hard on our marriage to start two companies and have our child. And we had a second one pretty close in there as well. So it was a little crazy, but we did make it through with God's help. And it's been great.
So tell me, so let's talk about that. Let's talk about the transition that you made, because that's a big transition, right? Because our minds are trained from very early ages, like kindergarten, maybe, to actually be in a frame of, like our framework is to get a career, go to work, come home, right? Like clock in, have lunch X time, do the rest of the duties, go home, maybe have some additional work to do regarding the work that you do at work, at home. That's how we're trained. So now you're going from this thing that we've been trained all our lives, right, to practice and utilize, to this unstructured, seemingly unstructured, because we know that when you work at home, it is very structured, right? You have to be to efficient. But
you gotta have a lot of self-discipline.
You have to have some kind of system, or is this not going to work? Right. And so the system looks differently than the typical 9 to 5, right? Because I mean, you can work at pockets of time. Like, for example, my husband works from home, and he does all his work at from between the hours of 4 a.m. and 6 or 7 a.m. and he's done. So, so it's different structure, right, than a typical 9 to 5. But what I'm saying is, as a society, we are trained in school that this is the pathway and this is what you do. And so now, if it wasn't for this recent occurrence that happened to us, unfortunately, this pandemic, the concept of geographic freedom of work would not even be commonly accepted. So I'm thinking now, you are telling me that this is 20 years, you said? How many
27.
years?
So it's 28 years ago.
28. So 28 years, you have been functioning in a framework that is not accepted generally, right?
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And it's
so that had to be fair with that. Like you're going from like a job where you go to the job and you come home and they give you a paycheck. You're going from that to something that is not widely accepted. How did you deal with that?
Yeah, I think for me there was a number of components there, right? So one was the emotional side of wanting to be free, right? To be there for my son. Now if I peel back the layers here, I wanted to be there for my son, which I was able to do. But as I looked at this, like having my own business and kind of getting out of a regular job, I realized that I did really at a core level enjoy schedule control, like to be able to say, oh, there's this thing, I want to go to that. Then you just go to it. You don't have to worry about a job and you have to be there, certain hours and all this stuff. So the freedom that came with owning your own business, that was deep seated, and there was power in that emotion of my son thing, but also of the freedom. So that was a strong emotion that, again, I could take that fear and kind of turn it into fuel. Now here we are. My son was 1, and then 9 months later, at 19 months, we had our second child, Caitlin. So now we had the 2 kids. Yes. And the bigger fear came in from my wife, like, well, wait a second, we need money for a family. Like, you're going to start your business. So the reason it took a year was my wife was like, look, when your business is making the same as your regular job, and we have, minimum 6 months worth of living expenses in the bank, then you break free, which was good. Okay. And that was good. And it can be scary, running and owning your own business, but I also go back to Jim Rohn, and he had this great saying. He said, profits are better than wages.
Yes.
And I got that.
Yes. And yes.
But when you have the profits, right? Like you could be, indentured to those profits too, if that's all you're concerned about. And so my wife has done really good at kind of balancing me out, which is great. But it does take, it's a lot of work in the beginning, right? So you might have to work 9 to 5 and create that business from 5 to 9, every night or up in the morning. And so that's what I did. And now I will say, as a leverage point, one of the businesses I started was with a friend. And we were, it was in the same industry. So I was in software development. And so we started something. We had some friends that had gotten jobs, almost like a temporary placement agency for computer programmers. And so we started that, but we kind of knew that industry because he was one of those already. And I had been in that industry a little bit myself. And so it was something that we knew. So it was a little bit of a bridge. It wasn't like some total, new thing. So that was one of the businesses I started. And the other was direct sales, something I could do on the side and build up it's kind of like a volunteer army. Like if you can't inspire people in the direct sales business, you're not going anywhere. But we were able to kind of get people inspired and I still have an income from that today, 27 years.
I believe
later, we still have a good income, coming from that. But it was kind of
But you had to put the work in at the beginning. Yeah. No, that's fantastic. That's fantastic.
It's like Zig Ziglar, like the pump. It's really hard to get a pump. But once you get the water flowing,
super easy, like a finger. Just put a finger on it.
Exactly.
Oh no. Yeah, no, that's fantastic. Yeah. Hey, it's Dr. G, and I just wanted to take a quick moment to thank you for listening to this episode. I'm so honored to have you here with me. Did you know that I can help you to get your own podcast started? With my podcasting launch course for professionals, I walk you through everything you need to know about starting a podcast. I'm with you every step of the way, from sign up to launching your show, with 5 episodes ready to go. There's a done for you version that's also available. If you would just rather just do recordings and leave the behind the scenes work up to us, then that one is definitely for you. But either way, we've got your back here at Fearless Freedom with Dr. G. Oh, if you already have a show and you need production services, we have monthly plans available for you. So check out the links in the episode show notes for more information. Let's get back to the show. You know, it's so interesting that you mentioned several things that have bolstered your ability to turn the fear into fuel, right? So you said that you definitely utilize the tools that are available to you. So you leveraged your knowledge, right? And your associations, right? With the company that was in the field, right?
Yeah.
That offered the offerings to the colleagues. And then you also said that in a sense, you also leveraged your wife's wherewithal and smarts, right? Because she was able to kind of it's kind of I don't know what the other guy was in Disney, and I don't know why I don't know his name. I've heard it before. I don't know why I don't know it. But anyway, Walt was the dreamer, right? He was the guy with the ideas, whatever. And then the other guy was like the practical guy. He was like, okay, you want to do this? We got to do this to get to that, right? So
was that like his brother? Was it his brother?
I think it was his brother, but I don't know what his name was.
I think his brother Ed, maybe, but yeah.
Okay. So the two of them together allowed for the dream to happen, right? So the same thing with your wife. So she realized that you had a good plan. She was like, this is a good plan, but let's just make sure that in order for us all not to be like killing each other, because I mean, that's what happens, right? Because when you don't have buy-in from your family, when you're doing something like this, because you essentially were doing something that was, as I mentioned before, completely in opposition of what the norm is in society, right? I mean, you were trying to build something where you could have geographic freedom. You could work from home. That is not normal. Okay.
Right. More normal today, though. More normal today.
Today it is. But what I'm saying is back then, even it was even more like ridiculous. And people must have looked at you like you were crazy. Like, what are you thinking, man? Like, how are you going to let go of like the benefits? People always say that.
Right.
What about the benefits? What about the benefits? You can buy your own insurance. Like, what are you talking about?
This is what we did.
So but this is what I'm saying. But that's not how people think. And also, here's another tool that you leveraged. You leveraged that tool that you acquired back in college. Because I don't know very many college students who read Think and Grow Rich. Like that's, that's a pretty heavy hitting like mindset book that most people aren't familiar with. And so the fact is that you had that seed planted from back then. And so that was another tool that you leveraged, because most people aren't able to do something as drastic as that. So you said that you had the wherewithal to turn the fear into fuel, but it usually takes multiple steps to get there.
Right.
It does.
Yeah. It took me a year.
That's what I'm saying. But you had a basis though. See, most people don't even have a basis. They don't even know where to start. They can't even recognize that they have fear about something. They just listen to, I don't want to say the monkey brain, but I guess it kind of is, right? They just listen to that monkey brain, and the monkey brain is like, no, you can't do that. Society says that you must do it this way. You cannot do that. It's not safe. And this is not a saber-toothed tiger that's attacking you. You're not going to be T-Rex's lunch. This could change your life forever, as you have demonstrated having done it. But what I'm saying is most people don't even know that. They don't even recognize that. So you came into it with an armor and a skill set that you were able to leverage greatly. And you had a partner that was stellar, which makes a huge difference in your success.
For sure. And the doubt creeps in. Everybody has that, the fear and the doubt comes in. And I kind of realized, early on too, that this head trash, this doubt, this pollution of the mind, so to speak. I realized that the solution to pollution was dilution, right? Like if you have like a beaker and it's dark water and you put more water in, you can dilute it. It gets clearer and clearer and clearer. And I realized that in my own thinking. So when, I talked about Jim Rohn, when I had hard times in building that business, I listened to a Jim Rohn program. Now I'll date myself. This was on audio cassettes, but I listened to that thing like 50 times in a row, 50 times in a row. Now you can get it on Audible. It's called The Power of Ambition. But that concept of, the solution to pollution is dilution. And if I had a bad hour, I may need 3 or 4 or 5 hours of Jim Rohn or positive, whatever. It could be podcasts like this, right? But getting the positives, pouring in the positive makes such a big difference. And now science is proving that, the chemistry of the mind that's what's happening. The neurons that fire together, wire together. And so if you wallow in the fear too long, it can overtake you. Whereas if you can pour in the positive and kind of break free and then keep yourself there, I think that's big.
No, that's a huge pearl. That is huge. And yeah, thank you for sharing that, because like I said, most people just don't know, and then they don't know what to do.
Well, and the other big thing that's helped me even, more recently was that I realized too that like most people take a shower every day, right? So they kind of wash their body every day. But how often do people kind of wash their mind? So I started this concept of taking a mind shower every morning, and I use something called the 21-second habits, like to make it a habit. But anyway, now for years I've been taking this daily mind shower, which there's a bunch of different apps you can use to do it. But basically, you're kind of just like washing the dirt out of your mind. And if you watch any news or go on social media, all that stuff, it's all accumulating in there, and your own little voices of doubt, all that stuff. But if you can keep yourself fairly clean if you do something on a daily basis. So that's the other thing I think that's really helped me is to kind of have that daily mind shower.
No, seriously, because whatever you feed in is what's going to come out.
Yes. And if you don't, the weeds take over, right? If you don't, if you're not around the positive influences, look out. I mean, you're out here on these podcasts meeting all kinds of great people, and you're getting a high vibration, and frequency from that, but people, they can get trapped. They can get trapped with the wrong people, with the wrong thoughts. And then it's hard to break out of that. But I want the listeners to know that you can, and really pour in things like this podcast, find a mentor, even if they're not alive, grab their audio programs and really, dive into somebody like that. And you'll be able to pull yourself up out of it, I think.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's really great advice. And so my question is this: what are your kids up to? Like, I mean, that's a pretty cool environment to grow up in. They had. So what are they up to?
So my son, Bo, he ended up going to Cal Poly in San Luis Obispo. And his dream was to work for Apple ever since he got the first iPhone. He was maybe 10 or 11 or something. And so he got an internship in his junior year, and then he went to work for Apple. So he worked for Apple for 5 years. And he met his now fiance there. And then in November, they got engaged here in Phoenix, where I live. And then they left Apple together. They were both at Apple for 5 years. And they moved to Denmark, Copenhagen, to work for Vivino, which is Vivino is this wine app that's been around for about 15 years. But they, they're young, they're just engaged. They've been to like, I don't know, 10 different European cities, right? It's so easy to get over there. So they're going to do that for a few years.
Great. That's really great.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. What's your daughter doing?
And then, so my daughter, her dream, maybe similar to yours there, is that she had this moment of dawning comprehension one summer. It was summer of her sophomore year in high school, that she wanted to be a doctor. So she was working at a fertility clinic, and she's like, I want to do this. And man, when she made that clarifying decision and just like got laser focused on it, she got into Emory, and then she went to University of Arizona Medical School here in Phoenix, and she became a medical doctor. And next month, she'll finish her first year of residency as an OBGYN. So she's delivered
awesome.
175 babies already.
That's fantastic.
Less than a year. So now, are you Are you an emergency doctor, right?
I am. I am an ER doctor. Yes.
Yeah. That is some tough stuff. That is, you have to think on
Yeah,
your
it can
feet,
be. You do
and
with little
you have to be
data.
able to let that stuff go at the end of the day. I don't think I could do that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny you say that because like my significant other, he's like, I don't know how you do that because he can't even like see a speck of blood. He'll be like freaking out,
Me either. I'm with
which
him.
is okay because I can't do what he does. So I feel like
Right.
not that say I can't. No, I would say I can't because I don't have the vision that he does to do what he does, and
Yeah.
he doesn't have the stomach to do what I do, which is fine. We do what we are good at, and that's perfectly fine. But
Perfect.
that's so awesome. I'm so happy to
Yeah.
hear that. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, and she's loving her residency so far. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
residency is tough. I'm not gonna lie.
It's tough.
It's
Hours
not an
is tough.
easy thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Hours are
it's
tough,
it's
but
it's worth it, because obviously you get the training that you need when you're ready to get out on your own.
yeah, I
So
mean, her confidence is so much different than a year ago. And after the first year, the hours get better. You're not stuck on
yes.
weekends and all kinds of crazy stuff like that. And then my wife, once the kids were out of the nest, she was a school teacher. She's like, well, my
Mhm.
other dream was to be a nurse. So she goes back to school and she got her nursing degree. So those two could talk about all the bloody
Oh,
whatever stuff.
that's so
And so, yeah, so
awesome.
she's a nurse now.
Oh,
And
that's great.
yeah, so it was, and that was tougher. I mean, I have a lot of admiration for my wife to go back to school at our age,
Absolutely.
and she
Absolutely.
didn't had to take some like chemistry stuff, and I'm just like, I don't even know how
Yes.
you got through that class.
Yeah,
But she
yeah,
got through it
yeah.
all, and yeah, and so now she's going to grad school and wants to be a teacher. She wants to combine the two, and she wants to
Okay.
teach nursing students. So
Okay.
she's kind of excited about that.
That is very exciting. Wow, that's fantastic. I love
Yeah,
hearing that.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I was actually pretty so I went through pretty straight. Like I went straight to like I was 20 something, like early 20s in med school, which is I
Yep,
guess a typical path, right?
yep.
And so I was actually pretty fascinated by colleagues because there was one of my classmates who was actually 40 years old at the time. At the time, she was 40 when she started medical school. And
Oh,
she was
wow.
actually starting medical school the same time that her daughter was starting law school at the same institution. Yeah, it's pretty
Wow.
awesome. It was really awesome. I mean, I was just so proud of her. And it was a very different, there were a different set of challenges, I think, for the I mean, back then I would say older, but since now I'm like 47 years old, I'm like, it's not really that old. But, back then I would say
Yeah.
older. I would say, let's just put this to say non-traditional students. So for the non-traditional students, there definitely were different challenges than what were faced with the students who went straight through. Some of them had families, right, with
Right.
younger children. So maybe they
Right.
might have had kids later, like myself, I had children later, and so they're dealing with the whole family balance and medical school, which is, I don't know how they did it. It is crazy because I was a single, unattached person with no children, and I definitely don't know how they did it. But obviously they
Right.
did it, and they
Yeah.
were successful. And they finished and they did their residencies, and they're practicing, and it's just very incredible to me to see that. And I know that it takes a lot to pursue your dream, but I think the fire of regret burns much more intensely than the one of facing something that is challenging. So kudos to your wife for doing that,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
now
Yeah.
she could like see, no, now you guys could be rocking on a rocket chair. I don't know if you can have rocket chairs, but you guys can be rocking on a rocket chair on the porch, and you can be saying, you know what, I lived my dream. We had a
Yep.
fantastic life, and she could look back and say the same thing. So I think that is absolutely awesome. And that's the ultimate in fear facing, I would say,
Right.
because I
Yeah. She
know she
faced
had
a
fears
lot.
going into it. I am positive that she had
Yeah.
fears.
Yeah. She had a lot of fear. And so she was a great example of pushing through the fear. Actually, halfway through nursing school, she had a little brain tumor and she had to have surgery to have that removed. So she had to leave school for a while. And then she came back, and an amazing story for her to kind of make it through all that and then come back and then finish. Because then she was like, she almost like didn't really want to go back, but she did. And so she
Wow.
didn't graduate with her initial friends.
Right.
It was like another almost like year and a half later that she graduated with a new set of friends and a new
Right.
cohort, that kind of
Yes.
embraced her and helped
Oh,
her.
that's
But like you
awesome.
said, it's
That's
different. Like
awesome.
she's probably one of the oldest, maybe 3 or 4 older people in the class,
Right.
and there might be, 30 or 40, going straight through
Right.
at a
Exactly.
younger
Yeah.
age, so, but
Oh,
anyway,
wow.
yes. And,
That's
facing the
fantastic.
fear and one mastermind group that I work with, it's a bunch of attorneys, but they have these t-shirts, and he gives away these t-shirts, and it says action kills fear, and I
Ah,
really do
that's
believe that,
good. I like
many
that.
times, that is true.
Yes.
He has a second shirt that says faith kills fear as well. So he has a little Bible thing that he does as well. But in any case, I do think that, sometimes taking action and making decisions can
Yes.
begin to alleviate fear, worry, kind of get you moving. They say,
Yes.
you can't steer a parked car. You
That's
got to get
right.
moving somehow. Even the smallest of movements can give you some positive brain chemicals and kind of get you moving in the right direction. But not easy.
Absolutely.
Life is not easy.
No, it's not. And
That
there are
is
always
for sure.
curveballs.
Right, for
There's
sure, for
constantly
sure.
obstacles in the way. No, that is like amazing. Now, there's some really very good pearls here that I know the tribe is going to be picking up. So I thank you for them. Thank you for sharing your wife's story. I mean, that is an incredible, incredible story. And I know that there are going to be people who are listening to this who that is going to resonate with, because, there may be somebody listening right now who is like, you know what, I kind of want to pursue this thing, but I'm in my 40s or I'm in my 50s and
Right.
maybe it's too late. But no, it's never too late. It's never too late. So you definitely should face the fear and make it happen, take action, right? As you
Right. And
mentioned.
that, in that facing of the fear, right? That's where the growth comes from. It doesn't come from
Yes.
winning, it comes from facing the fear, and many times losing. But that's where that's where you learn. So know that, going in, face that fear, you'll build courage, you'll build some self-confidence, but you'll get better at life in general by
Yes.
facing the fears and taking some action for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, that's awesome. So now you have to tell everybody, Blaine, how they can get in contact with you if they want to, learn more about what you offer, et
Yeah.
cetera.
Yeah, sure. So I'll just give you one thing very easy. A number of years ago, I did a TEDx talk. And so I did this TEDx talk about this concept of white table, what you think about, you bring about, and I talk about some ways to kind of program your mind very easily. And so if you just go to BlaineTEDx.com, so BLAINE TEDx.com. You can opt in there. You'll get a copy of the TEDx talk and the transcript. I think I'm up to 200,000 views. So it's been a popular one with the
Nice.
TED folks. And
Nice.
so that's been nice. But yeah, and then we'll be connected. You'll learn a little bit about me. You'll get my email, my contact information, and would love to help you, serve you in any way I can.
No, that's fantastic. Congrats on the TED Talk. That's pretty big stuff.
Yeah. That was a big bucket list item. I was nervous, and you could tell, and my mouth got too dry. And anyway, but you got to
Doesn't
face
matter.
the
You
fear.
did it.
You
did
right,
it.
right. And it's opened a lot of doors for me. It really has.
Absolutely.
So it's been nice.
That's not something that people can actually have on their CV. And most people don't have that. It's like a big deal.
Right. Yeah. And they do, and they help you, and they coach you, and then it goes on the big TED website, and so yeah, it was great.
Nice. So now we're going to be doing our traditional item on the show, which is fill in the blanks. Are you ready, Blaine? Are you ready to fill in the blanks?
I am ready. Okay. Thanks to you. I am ready, where you said, hey, we may do this. And I heard some people do it at the end of the podcast, the episodes that I listened to. Yes.
Yes, sir. All right, here we go. The first one is, if I am fearless, I will.
All right. If I am fearless, I will be humbly bold. So now it's a little weird there, but I want to keep my humility, but I also want to be bold enough to step out to help people.
Okay. All right. I like that. The next one is, to me, fearless freedom means?
Yeah, so to me, fearless freedom means that I exercise the ability to step into the options of life. And so for me, there's levels of the more freedom you can have, the more options you have, right? So if I have, I have enough cash flow and money that I'm not worried about it, now I have more options. If my health is in good condition, I have more options. And so I'm just always trying to keep those options open, and keeping my level of freedom high. And I feel like I'm more fearless if I'm not worrying about some of those things.
No, that makes total sense. Absolutely. All right, cool. And then last but not least, my battle cry is.
So, if I was going to talk about fear, it would be action kills fear. That would be my battle cry. But this year for me, my battle cry is only the vital. Now, what I do is, I don't know if you've heard this concept where you pick a word for the year. So each year,
yes,
everybody in our family pick one word. So my word this year was vital. And
Okay.
so for me, only the vital, that's like my battle cry, in that as I start each day, that I really try to do that 80-20 rule and really distill down and say, like, what is the vital stuff to do? And then push everything else away. And when I do that, once I get the important thing done, but then I have open time to do the other important things that just rise up, right? And it could be a family thing, it could be a business thing, but you create the space, and sometimes you have to let the little things, the little bad things happen, so that you have time for the good big things, right? So anyway, only the vital. That's kind of my battle cry this year.
Love it. Love it. Wow. Thank you so much for taking time out and spending it with us. We really appreciate you.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me.
All the pearls, we love it. Thanks for sharing all those. Yeah. And so I am, just say one more time where they can find the TEDx talk.
Yeah, BlaineTEDx.com. So it's BlaineTEDx.com.
Awesome. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Fearless Freedom with Dr. G. Again, I'm Dr. G. And if you like this episode, be sure to subscribe so that you can get notified of when the next episode is going to be. And also, I'll catch you next time. Have a great one. Be strong, be brave, and unleash your greatness.